Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of the Four Wide Podcast. Three of us are here currently. We got the aficionado, Austin, over there.
안녕하세요.
Indeed. We have Blake on his, he's broadcasting live on his cone that he got outside of his house.
I am in the mid 2000s, boys. I have made it to that era now.
It's like
He said, I'm on a payphone.
he's recording it on his Google Pixel,
I think
tablet.
I'm glad my iPod Touch charged tonight.
Don't hate on Google Pixel now.
I said tablet. I didn't say that.
Okay, just watch the slander.
And of course, we don't have our historian with us at the current moment. He's supposed to join us. Somebody forgot his laptop somehow, knowing it's podcast day. And then he sends a text to us, and he just says, "Sorry, fellas, that was it. There was no context."
I wake up and I think it's podcast day.
That's right.
That's what gets me through. That's what gets me through work all day.
Yeah, when I get done recording on Tuesdays, I'm like, "Is it Tuesday yet?"
That's right. I think, the podcast is what helped me kind of get through this past weekend. So.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Alrighty, boys. Of course, the socials are always the same at Four Wide Pod, spelled out FOUR. So just so you know, not the number, but it's technically a number, but the letters of a number.
But it's spelled out.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's FOUR.
Yes.
That English degree worked out wonders for you, buddy.
I told you guys I'm like super tired today.
Man, I should have gone to Western.
That's right. Right. Alrighty. So we are recapping Bristol, Bristol. And we're going to start with the truck race, right? So the weather guard.
TRUCK.
Yes. Room.
Race car spelled backwards is race car.
Oh, boy. So we had the weather guard truck race at Bristol. That is the technical name of the race, which is wild to me. They really had to throw the truck race portion into it. Most places like, Food City 500, Black Tire 250. This is just a weather guard truck race at Bristol. So we had 8 cautions for 66 laps and 6 lead changes. That's kind of scary. That's 3 sixes back to back between 5 drivers. So Larson had the fastest lap. He turned that on lap 246 of that race. He had those new tires at that portion, I believe. So our notable finishes, we had Chandler Smith getting his first win in the Truck Series this year. Larson finishing second. Corey Heim finished third. Tyler Ankrum finished fourth. Ben Rhodes finished fifth. Riggs finished sixth. Garcia finished seventh. That's a good run for him. Honeycutt finished eighth. That's 3 straight good weeks for Honeycutt. Raja finished at 9th, and Gio finished in the top 10. Just honestly, I would throw a mention of Swalich was having a fantastic race, and compared to what he has been doing here lately, and then he, of course, got in that accident towards the end of the race. It just blew a hole in the front of the truck, which was wild to see. So let's see. Actually, I think that was the Xfinity race, wasn't it? The Swalich got the hole in the front.
I don't remember.
I don't either. Whatever at this point. We're rolling with it. Drivers with issues. Norm Bennick, with his top 5 Daytona truck, ended up having electrical issues, I believe. Majetsky had that accident with Frankie. So that was rough for them. Brandon Jones there was a whole bunch. You had Spencer Boyd, Starpelli, Friesen even. Just a whole bunch of trucks have a whole bunch of accidents. And they weren't even necessarily wrecks the whole entire time. Just electrical issues, suspension issues. It was a wild race in regards to that, which it's kind of given. The different grooves, the asphalt and stuff's going to break. It tends to anyways, especially on those trucks. So, first story point, I guess, is, Chandler Smith got that first win of the year. It's been looking really strong. Front row both have been looking really beefy trucks this year, especially at the short track packages.
Yeah.
And I mean, he could also be a good real competitor this year, in all honesty, because I feel like his game is more well rounded compared to Lane Riggs, and that's not a shot at Lane Riggs at all. But that's just Chandler Smith has been up to Xfinity Series, and he's been all the tracks decent amount of times, and now he's coming back down. Uh, so let's just talk about Chandler Smith, guys. I know a lot of us were shocked to see him step down to the Truck Series initially. So I'll throw it to Austin here and let him get first dibs on this.
Do it since Kent wasn't here.
That's right. Holding the fort down.
Man,
Someone's got to
2-1 over here.
Someone's got to pick up the slack. Thank you, Cole.
Welcome, sir.
I am very happy for Chandler Smith. I only saw the last 40 laps, 40, 50 laps of the truck race because I had a class on Friday night. But I really like Chandler Smith. I liked him when he was originally, when he was he was in Xfinity the last year, and he was trucks again the year before, right?
No, he was with Colleague 2 years ago. I think Gibbs Xfinity last year. And then, so I think it would have been 3 years ago he was in trucks. I believe.
Either way, I've enjoyed watching him for some time now. I mean, he's a good guy. I hated to see him kind of take a demotion almost, going back to the Truck Series. But man, it was good to see him win. It was honestly good to see someone besides Corey Heim win as well. Don't get me wrong, I want Heim to come through on my prediction of breaking the all-time race win record in a season for trucks, but it's he didn't have a dominant car. I would say from what I saw of the race, he didn't have the most dominant car, but he kept himself out of trouble, kept himself in a good position, and capitalized on kind of those late restarts there towards the end and put himself in position to get the win. So, love to see it for front row. Get back in victory lane with the trucks. Yeah, hard to hate it.
All right, Blake, I'll let you follow that up.
Yeah, I think first to have a lot of success, you've got to have the right team, the right driver, and the right crew. And I think this team with Front Row Motorsports and Chandler Smith, to me, they remind me of each other a little bit, because Front Row, how they started out with Bob Jenkins in the Cup Series, and man, it was they weren't Front Row. We'll just put it to you like that when they ran, right?
Back row.
But they have, I mean, they were legit back row.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, but that team has just had grit for the last 15, 16 years, and so does Chandler Smith. I remember that. I mean, he really didn't have a ride until I think mid to late January, and they got the team together and hired all the people they need to. From what I heard, he was telling a radio show or an interview, and they just came out of the woodworks on the origin of that team real quick, and man, they hit it off well. And that's why I think they're doing such a good job. The team and the driver really match well. And I like what Front Row's done at the Cup level, some of the success they've had in the last few years. But they've turned into a really great truck program. And Chandler Smith definitely is not wasting that ride at all.
Yeah, we just got this giant K sitting here on the screen. It's wild.
What's up?
What's going on, buddy? We're totally not mid-recording right now. We were talking about Chandler Smith and just how great of a performance. I would throw in that I feel like the real, of course, thing that motivated Front Row to be what Front Row is now. Of course, you had a couple of run-in wins in regards to stuff, but that Michael McDowell winning the Daytona 500 kind of propelled them into just a different state of being because, of course, you got all the revenue and all the media stuff that you get out of that. That was really what catapulted them to be able to not necessarily compete week to week on the cup level, but it seems like the truck series in general has blossomed more from them because in all honesty, if it was not without them, I mean, you would have what? You'd have Tricon and you'd have what's the other team? The team that Ben Rhodes drives for, ThorSport.
Thor Sport, yeah.
Those would be the two that would be like fighting week to week. Of course, you'd have like your cars in regards to like Hendrick and whatnot for Spire, but most of those are not going to be point capitalizing rides because they're going to be one offs, two offs, three offs. So uh, I would say that, but what do you think, Kent? I see you're muted, so I'm kind of afraid to ask, but just tell us what you thought about the truck race for Chandler Smith winning.
Let me go back and look at the results. I know I watched a little bit of at least every race this weekend, but I um didn't get a chance to. Let's see here. See, Chandler Smith, or this was the race Kyle Larson got into some trouble with. So Kyle Larson, was he kind of? I didn't catch the end of the race. Did he kind of end up coming up through? Because he had to kind of come through the field right there towards the end of the race. He had a penalty.
Oh,
Now I've definitely been impressed with Chandler Smith, and now with Front Row Motorsports. Really, ever since they got into the Truck Series, you expect them to kind of be towards the front. You know, they find victory lane more often than not. Well, not more often than not, but they find it more seasons than not. And for him to be second in the standings, only about less than 20 points behind Corey Heim, says a lot about how they're running because we know how Corey's been pretty dominant this year. I think it'd be fair to say like Corey's the Larson of the truck series, when it just comes to dominance and getting the job done. So, good for Chandler Smith. I think he's one of those guys who's going to be good for the sport, and for a long time. So, it's cool to see him running well for sure. Not surprised. I mean, when it comes to is it one of those things that I look at like he's one of those I'd have picked to be a front runner, before the season started. So not surprising, and it's good to see it come together.
was it Daytona or was it Atlanta that he had a really good truck and he ended up getting in a wreck up front? I think
I
it was
think,
Daytona, wasn't it?
yeah, Daytona, I mean, honestly, him and Lane both, man, those front row trucks were fast. Um, and I
And
think, and I know Lane's was super fast as Atlanta before he went below that,
that's what it was.
double yellow line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, they've had great trucks all year.
So I mean, just shout out to Front Row getting that team together and being so. I mean, honestly, looks like they're cooking on all cylinders and not bad for a crew chief that just got hired like 2 to 3 weeks before the season started.
For real.
I mean, I feel like we would need to mention Larson, especially since this was the one race that he did not get the sweep on, which he very much could have. There was an extra 10 to 15 laps on this race.
Is
I'm
that
so
twice
glad he
this year
did it.
now that he's gone 2 for 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Miami
That's
Austin
tough.
did.
here.
That's tough.
So,
I'm so glad
especially
he
for your
didn't
hot
get it.
take.
I'm pulling for him to get it. I don't know.
What
That's just me.
What's your wife think about that, Austin?
I don't know.
It's just I don't ask. Oh boy. So I think the choice to get those tires was the right choice for Larson in regards to overall performance towards the end of the race. I mean, what could have been, right? I mean, in all honesty, just an extra 5 to 15 more laps, even less caution laps. There was that one caution where they rode around for a while. Was it rain or it was rain, wasn't it? Like a misty rain. So they lost some laps to that, and I'm sure Larson was sitting there like, just let me race at this point because they had the wet weather tires there, obviously, but it is what it is. So Austin, why are you happy that Larson did get the sweep? I want to hear this.
Well, it comes from the Cole. I mean, you talked about last night his interview that he had on the Harvick podcast. Just comes off like a jerk about the whole thing. Just like the reason I'm running these races is to show these young guys that they ain't got it, or they ain't worth anything, or that they're not as talented as they think they are. And to a degree, I get it. Like, they do need to run against cup competition, um, and let that be the standard. But I just didn't like the way he worded it. It just came off um, very condescending. It's easy for him to speak that way because he's in top tier equipment. But I guarantee if you put him in lesser equipment, he would not be running anywhere near as good as he does in these Xfinity and truck races. He may get top fives or top tens, but he ain't leading the field by 10 seconds. You put him in a big machine, you know, truck. I don't think he's running that. So I don't know. I just thought it was a bit arrogant of him to say, and after hearing that interview, I was like, "Yeah, I'm glad you didn't win this week," because that just comes off as very, very condescending and very cocky. Um, I get wanting to prove a point to the younger drivers that they need to step it up and perform to a certain standard, but on the same token, it's easy for him to speak in his position of privilege.
Go ahead, Blake. I see it. I see the anger in your eyes.
No, it's not anger. I respect what Austin said. I think it's I'm actually kind of surprised and almost thankful that he said it in a good way, because for the longest time there's not much personality coming out of him. But this past weekend, he kind of took a little jab at Hamlin during the victory celebration, and I mean, got the fans all crazy about that. And so I like when these drivers are starting to show some true colors, whether they're a jerk or whether they're the nicest person ever. I think it's good for the sport because it'll get people talking.
I'm curious though. Did you hear the clip that Austin's talking about here from Harvick's podcast?
I will say I heard bits and pieces. I haven't heard all of it, but I did see where he wanted to embarrass the field and this and that. So
and
I did like that part.
He also started the statement. It was not to sound cocky, but I'm like, of course you're going to sound cocky. You say something like that. That's just wild to me. I don't know.
Well, it hopefully for his sake, he won't let the cockiness get to his head that bad.
I think also, me and Austin were talking about this last night. I have a deeper appreciation for, like a Kyle Busch that did this in cars that he actually owned, like those trucks and whatnot. He wasn't in these top tier rides. Now, Kyle Busch Motorsports was a top tier ride, but it wasn't essentially handed out to them.
It was
They had to
self-funded.
earn. Exactly. So I have more respect for that than I do, just dropping into a car that says Spire, but it's honestly just a Hendrick car in the Xfinity series. I mean, in all honesty, for being
or in the
completely
trucks
square.
or whatever.
Yeah, for being completely square here. So, Kent, I'll go ahead and throw it to you so we can conclude that. I figured you probably have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I remember playing high school football, and I would have gone D1, but I got hurt. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was never going to happen. Anyways, but I remember you would have some freshmen come up, especially when I got to be an older, an upperclassman. There'd be some freshmen come up, and we had this. There was one guy in particular that I remember. He was like a little brother to me, and he talked a big game. And he was a big man on the field and on the middle school team, right? But now he's playing high school football. He's showing up to my practice, and I got to whoop him in a drill and got to kind of show him, hey, no, not here, no, you can't do that. And there's a sense of that made him better, that made me better, and that made our team better. I didn't get to do that to a lot of people, but this one in particular, I definitely had an advantage on. So I mean, you look at the race that the Xfinity Series had at Martinsville. And Kyle Larson's probably sitting there watching it going, I'm embarrassed. Like, this is the series that got me to the cup level. Like, all right, this is embarrassing to watch from my sport. Um, and he's kind of like maybe like a father does to a son a little bit every now and then. He just said, "Hey, look, I'm gonna have to go and embarrass them. I'm gonna have to go and show them how to do this thing the right way, and I'm gonna go kick their tail and give them a good whooping and show them." So I mean he knows that he's going to go and do it in top tier equipment. You could argue that Spire may not be. I think we might give Spire a little bit too much credit in the truck series. That, or maybe they just don't have drivers that are as good as we give them credit for. But I just, so I mean the truck series, and I know he finished second there, and he's won truck races and Spire equipment before, and obviously the Hendrick Motorsports stuff is going to be, you know, uh, top tier, even for junior motorsports equipment, right? Like it's going to be top tier. Um, uh, so yeah, he can talk a big game because he's not going and getting in a, you know, uh, bottom feeder
Harrison
type.
Burton's ride, for instance, like AM Racing, putting him in
AM
that
Racing. That's a
car.
good example. AM Racing, which Kyle Larson could still get in that thing and go finish and the strongly in the top 10, right? Like he could do that kind of stuff because he's one of the best to do it. I don't have a problem with him being cocky there. I mean, you got to take into consideration, who's he being cocky towards? Is he being cocky towards the Cup field? Well, then absolutely, I'd have a problem with that if he was being cocky towards the Cup field. Although he probably could afford to, but he's being cocky towards the Xfinity and the Truck Series. Well, he's earned the right to as a champion at the highest level of the sport, and someone who's so. I mean, when he starts a phrase not to sound cocky, well, of course it's going to be cocky. But I also think he's earned a bit of the right to be cocky with some of the success that he's had. But then I mean, y'all saw the move that he made in the Xfinity race. He really pushed Allgaier, I believe, out of the groove at one point, and I don't think that was necessarily on purpose. I think Allgaier was a little bit. I think he was closing the gap a little bit quicker than he thought he would right there. But still, it's just he's going to have to make sure that if he says something like that, he's going to have to follow it up with a clean race. But anyways, golly, Austin, I could hear that from 2 states away.
You're
Golly.
you're you're hurting Austin.
A tree just blew outside my window. I mean, golly.
You want to rebuttal that, Austin, or are you good?
Nah,
No.
Nah.
the Hendrick bias speaks for itself, so I'll leave
Oh Lord.
it.
It's
So
not biased if it's true.
Look, I would not have said the same thing. Look, Jimmy Johnson came in and started whooping Jeff Gordon every now and then. I got frustrated. You better believe there was no Hendrick bias when it came to Jimmy Johnson there when he was at the peak of his career. Um,
Amen.
and right here, like this was another race that my favorite driver didn't win. I'm not like Blake. I don't have second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, favorite drivers. But Kyle Larson is one that I definitely hold a. I get annoyed sometimes, like when I went to the 2021 Coke 600 and he just absolutely, you know, took the whole
Thanked
field
him.
to school. I mean, it was all
Yeah.
it was ugly. Watching that race was annoying. But I
No, it
mean,
wasn't.
for you, yeah. Where was he on your list at that point? Third or second?
he probably third because Chase was his number one driver back then. I'm pretty sure.
It was mine too,
Uh,
and Chase finished second. But anyways, so I mean I mean there's definitely a Hendrick bias with me, but it's not going to carry all the way to Kyle Larson because he's still winning races that I wish Byron was winning. But anyways,
Just a small note with this: the tires for the truck race were just absolutely wild to me. For them not to have to pit for the first whole entire stage, 115 laps, and then like the last 6 laps is just when the truck started getting a little wobbly, just a little bit. That was wild to me. I was like, I, I don't know what tire Goodyear had for the truck race, but they need to throw that on every car that you can fit it on if you're driving like on the streets or whatever, because you ain't
Yeah.
never gonna run out of tread.
No, sir.
So
And it's wild on that. I mean, Bristol seems to be the one track where we just don't have a clue what's going on with the tires until I think people are starting to get a good grip on it. But going into the weekend, I mean, you've got people who work for Tesla in there. You've got people like Chad Canals who are like car chief in cars, and his influence is going down. You've got Cliff Daniels, and you've got so many smart people, and they just have no idea what to do with this track when it comes to tires. And it's like, since when do since when did the truck tires not wear out? You know,
been a hot
especially
minute for sure.
yeah, especially after it rains and there's absolutely no rubber on the track. That's when they usually cord the crap out of them. So it's wild. I don't know what's up with that track.
So I finally we've gotten to the point of the season where I'm like, we can at least overview the points and whatnot. I feel like it makes sense too. So of course you got Heim with the 2 wins sitting on that one spot. You got Smith and Hemrick both with a win so far this year. And then the next person that is top of the points is Majewski. He's fourth. He is 43 points to the good. So Ankrum, Riggs, Infanger, Friesen, Rhodes, and Garcia round out that top 10. And then you actually have Honeycutt 5 points out right now. First one out, which is great for that team. That's a great performance this last few weeks for him. You have Tanner Gray down 24 points in that next spot. And then you have Giro 13th. That's
That's not
wild to
bad.
me. That's
It's
wild
not,
to me.
yeah, it's not bad for your first year.
Especially when it was, when me and Blake walked in at the gates at Daytona and we looked down and we're like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
What has he done to get this ride? Well, he's showing, this is what he does. And then when you're beating someone out like Matt Crafton in points, I know Crafton's on the back end of his career, but still, he's beating Rajai out as well. So I don't know. It's just,
definitely got some surprise guys up there for sure.
and that's what I like to see,
Yeah.
especially not having like a clear favorite in the truck series this year. I can go into the truck race and just kind of enjoy the race for what it is and not have to be like, oh, my guy's right there. He needs to move up, or my guy's here. I can just watch the race and see all these young guns going at it. So, alrighty. So, we're going to move on to the Xfinity race here. It's the SIAPS 300. I have 5 cautions for 44 laps, 8 lead changes among 5 drivers. Big shocker here. Kyle Larson got the fastest lap on lap 106. So, top 10, Larson, Quapple. Fantastic race by Quapple. Definitely looked better than his Martinsville race did a couple of weeks ago. So, definitely good to see that. Allgaier finished P3. Sammy Smith, P4. Didn't move anybody out of the way. Had a clean race, so that's good. Jones, P5. Jesse Love, P6. Sieg, top 10 again, P7. Heim in his start finished 8th. Christian Eckes in 9th. And Dean Thompson squeaked out a top 10 this week. We had 4 drivers that had major issues. Sawalich, this is when Sawalich should have that issue. I have it written down. Alex LeBay, Sheldon Creed, and Brandon Poole.
That was a hit.
My gosh, we'll talk about that later. And Mason Majuro. Those were drivers that had issues throughout the race. 3 of them actual wrecks. 2 of them, I believe, issues with the cars. So, I mean, Larson led 277 300 laps of this race. It feels like a broken record. It's kind of like Bristol and Homestead are just like his tracks now when it comes to, the series in general. So I guess I'll let Blake go on this one, let the glazing go on a little bit more because it's all we're going to be doing this episode.
I mean, I'll be short about it, but he last few races he's turned into like a mid 2000s Kyle Busch kind of driver here, and a probably more parents' generation, maybe our grandparents' generation, like how Darrell Waltrip was at Bristol. That's essentially what Kyle Larson's turning into at this track. if he continues this trajectory. He's still, I mean, to be fair, if he stopped winning, if this was his last race that he ever won at Bristol, I don't know that you could put him into that category. But if he continues this,
No.
yeah. But if he keeps this dominant trajectory, he's easily going to be up in that level.
It's what, 2 wins at Bristol at the Cup level, 3. So Hamlin's got what, 3 as well, I think, 3 or 4.
I know. Let's see. Larson won in the fall of 2021.
Yep.
Fall of 2024 and here, so I know of at least 3.
3.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, you still got a couple to catch up to Darrell Waltrip. Just a few.
For sure.
But I guess, I mean, Austin, do you have anything to put with this? I mean, there's really not much you can say other than like, yeah, he whipped the field. I mean,
yeah,
that's basically it.
Yeah,
it saves us some talking points, and a little bit of time on the podcast, and just sitting here and reiterating the same thing, especially once we talk about the Cup race. Tire fall off did matter on this race a little bit more. I would say this race probably reflected the most tire fall off in general for all 3 cars. It really seemed like. So, what do you think about that, Mr. Kent? Since you're flickering on and off and doing all kinds of fancy stuff over there.
So, in the Saturday race, I never can remember what I do over the weekends. I just know that I watched about half of that race. I'm drawing a blank. Did they seem to have pretty good tire wear on Saturday?
It's probably the best of all 3 days, I would say.
Yeah.
It was more noticeable.
What was the difference in the weather from Saturday to Sunday? Just curious.
It didn't rain.
15 degrees.
Was it 15 degrees warmer on Saturday?
15 degrees warmer on Sunday. So it was about 45 degrees on Saturday, and on Sunday it was about 60 air temperature, and so that seemed to make all the difference for the Sunday tire. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Because I know on the practice, them things were cording like crazy.
I don't know enough about those tires to even begin to have a thought towards that. I just remember, which I know we aren't talking about the Cup race yet, but whenever you have a race though that factors in more tire conservation, that's when you're going to have. Yeah, I don't know. I like the strategy that adds to it when you have guys that save and are able to run harder later in a run. And sometimes you have guys that save not on purpose, but just because they were maybe caught up in traffic, right? And they're not able to push quite as hard. They just kind of have to wait until moments line up for them to pass somebody. They get by them, and then, all of a sudden they get towards the front, and it's like, hey, they've got a little bit less wear on their tires, been able to save them because they hadn't been running quite as hard as the guys out front in clean air who've just been able to rip around the track. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was definitely. I thought Allgaier would have something for Larson there for a little while, but he just never. I mean, there towards the end of some runs, it looked like he would get a little bit close. He never let Larson just completely run away. It felt like, but I don't know. It just kind of that was one of those another butt kicking that Larson gave the field.
So yeah, that's basically it. I'd say the big highlight for me for this race was seeing the crash between Sheldon Creed and Poole, because that was the most damage I've seen to a car that's not flipped in years. In all honesty, like the way the cars just disintegrated when they hit each other was wild.
Yeah, that one car didn't even have any sheet metal on the right side of it.
Yep.
That was
it was that was that's at least about $70,000 to $80,000 worth of damage right there.
Especially for a ride like Brandon Poole, that's not a cheap tab at all.
No,
for that race team.
And
not
and
all.
that was. I was trying to think. So, and I don't know. I don't definitely want to get y'all's hot takes on this, but my first thought was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Poole's the one that came sliding into it, right?
Yes.
So my first thought was, I don't know who Poole's spotter is, but man, the guy just absolutely laid an egg. But then I
Yeah,
realized that I was watching the race in slow motion. I
yeah.
was watching the replay in slow motion, and I remember, just from being on iRacing, just how realistic it is. When you're coming off the corner right there, you're on the throttle pretty hard and letting it take you up against the wall, right? Your momentum, everything is pushing you towards the wall. And if you try to slow down with the way that the banking is and just with how slick the surface is, if you try to slow down and cut that wheel to the left, you're going to do exactly what he did. And so I guarantee you his spotter came on at the exact right time saying, get low, get low, get low.
He did.
And I guarantee you that Poole uh, let off the gas, got on the brakes, started to move down where he thought he needed to be, and it was just too late. So I mean, one of those freak accidents where when you see someone parked at that angle on the track, you're bracing as a fan, thinking, "Don't happen, don't happen, don't happen." Oh gosh, that had to hurt. But watching the wheel rip off and him just kind of bounce over it as he was sliding towards. I mean, that reminded me a little bit of when it was Kurt Busch that got into the wall before I think he or someone else clipped. It was at Pocono. If y'all remember the Pocono race when Elliott Sadler had the gosh awful wreck that ripped the front end off his car completely, um, which we could do a whole episode just about some of the um, conspiracies that
Gnarly wrecks. Yeah.
went into that wreck. But anyways, but Kurt Busch's car, as he's kind of sliding through the grass, he's just bouncing on that wheel as it just kind of tucked and folded under his car and stuff, and that's just kind of what that reminded me of. But I mean that it's relentless, absolutely relentless, and that's a soft part of the car, not the frame, not the roll cage, but the metal right there is soft, and there's padding underneath it, and you know that now because it was all over the track after they collided. But that was definitely one of those that I was very happy to see both drivers get out and walk away.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't see Poole walk out for a while. He was in there for a hot minute. Creed was instantaneous out. He walked. He was not having any of it. He walked straight down. He was gone. So uh, he wasn't able to finish second this week. He had that taken away from him this week. So you hate to see it. But yeah, I mean, it was tough to see. It was one of those that you grimace. And also, if you were a fan, I seen fans literally standing right there as that wreck was happening. I'm like, man, I don't know how I'd feel to be right there. I'd be clenched up. I would be ready to, I'd be running away or something. But they just stood there like, wow, that was crazy. So, I mean, not much. We're glad that both of them are okay, and both of them had minimal. I mean, of course, I'm sure they're sore as crap this week. So,
Both
we
of
wish
them.
both of them, both of them,
Both of them.
both of them, boy. And I mean, that's basically it. So we'll go over the points here. Austin Hill leads the points with 2 wins. He has 14 playoff points. Justin Allgaier also has 2 wins. He has 13 playoff points. He's the regular season champion of points, though. Connor Zilic has that 1 win, 7 playoff points. Jesse Love with that other win, 5 playoff points. And you got Brandon Jones with a win. You see how dispersed that is, and then you look at the trucks like we just looked at, and you have Heim that's won 3 races already this year. It just it, it does magnificent stuff to see a whole bunch of different winners. But Sam Mayer's actually the one that is 6 in points currently, and he is actually behind Allgaier if you're just talking straight up points. So Sam Mayer's having a heck of a year, especially for just a Haas factory team. Got Quapple, Creed, Sieg, Sammy Smith. Daniel Dye is in the playoffs at this point. Jeb Burton is also in the playoffs at this point. Now they're only +5 and +2. So, I mean, it's wild to see. I mean, it's early, but then you got people like Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, and Taylor Gray that are just outside. I mean, Taylor Gray outside, it's got to be rough for JGR, I would imagine. Especially where he got that Martinsville win taken away from him in that last corner. Um, I think he'll have a chance to get another win this year. I really do. That car's been decent the last few weeks. So, but if he's not able to get that win, that's going to be really tough to recover in regards to points. So, all right, we'll move on to the Food City 500, which is just the Kyle Larson Show 2.0 here. 3 cautions for 40 laps, 4 lead changes between 4 drivers. Just sit on that for a minute. Just think about that. So you had Larson get the win. You had Denny Hamlin second. Ty Gibbs third. That is a fantastic run for Ty Gibbs. First top 5 of the year. It's crazy what happens, if you stay with your driver and you're consistent and you pull for him, they end up getting those results. Chase Briscoe, P4. Ryan Blaney, P5. P6, William Byron. Chastain, 7th. That's a good run for Trackhouse, especially how bad their cars were in practice and qualifying. They were like all over the place. I mean, they didn't hit the wall like Logano did in regards to when they were qualifying or anything, but they were loose. They were honestly like Reddick loose during qualifying.
Somehow Logano got to P22 after starting P38. I don't know how he did that.
Yep. It's funny. P22 and the 22. It was just made to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's your typical day for Joey Logano. But anyways,
Oh, Lord.
he's washed.
Lord. Oh, my gosh. Allmendinger, top 10, 9th. And Austin Dillon got a top 10. Oh. So Bowman, SVG, and Bilicki all had DNFs. Bowman, of course, had that engine failure towards the end of the race on the third stage. SVG just got in that wreck and tore his car up with Cody Ware. And Josh Bilicki had electrical issues, if I remember right. Dinger had the fastest lap, which was great for him. He needs all the points he can get. So, especially for Kaulig. I mean, they've been having a struggle bus in regards to their cup level so far, so it's good. Now, when it comes to a road course race like the Roval or something, he'll have a good chance.
Can I, not to push back, but I'm just curious. Is Ty Dillon doing as bad as what we thought he would, or is he doing better? Because to me, I think he's doing better than what we expected this year.
I mean, he's had a couple of good, like, decent finishes, but a lot of it is because of strategy, for sure, 100%. And you could say the same thing about AJ. But being, as good as they are in the Xfinity Series, or they have been, you would expect them with, Dinger and Dillon both. I mean, really good careers in general so far. Ty Dillon's, of course, not as accomplished in regards to wins and whatnot, but he's been in some good cars throughout his career, good trucks, and I mean, I wouldn't say Kaulig's necessarily failing this year, but they need to get in the top 10. I mean, that's crucial. You're not getting points if you're not in the top 10.
Yeah.
I just looked it up. Ty is 9 points behind his brother in the point standings, and I think he was tied with him either last week or going into the week before. And but he's only 5 points behind Daniel Suarez, and so when you look at some of the guys that he's right there, just close to in the point standings, you definitely are thinking to yourself, better than what I really expected him to be in the bottom 3 of the full time Cup drivers. I think that's fair to admit for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Like we expected him to be in the bottom 3, given what we've seen from him in his career. We know he's not. I mean, Ty's not terrible. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's probably better than his brother, but he's not. He's not really ever gotten a shot in decent equipment. This might be the best shot he's ever gotten equipment wise. So definitely would like to see him make something of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think maybe college cup program was just horrific last year. Outside of SVG and a road course car, AJ, right? Maybe maybe they're just back to decent this year. Maybe that was kind of my thought process with it.
I mean, my point still remains is they got to finish in the top 10 if they want to
No,
compete for the
absolutely.
playoffs. So,
Yeah, they got to step it up for sure.
yeah, I ain't saying they're having like a track house year. Track house is god awful this year.
No, I know. Yeah,
They're terrible. I mean, Suarez not even. Chastain's been the most consistent out of all of them. SVG, man, been really disappointing so far this year, and some of it's not been his ordeal. He's had some electrical issues. He's had all kinds of crap happen to him. So, but also it's still, his first year in a cup car universally. So, yeah, it is what it is. But I mean, different day, same Larson story, right? 411 laps of 500. Just been a couple. I mean, all honesty, it's been a couple of rough races for the last few weeks of just dominant performances. And I know everybody, it's like, I appreciate dominant performances and whatnot. I get that 100%, but they are still boring as crap to watch sometimes when you're watching them on TV, especially when you have the broadcast just kind of always focusing, always up front, it seems like.
yeah.
So I know I looked on the Jeff Gluck poll. Someone posted their poll below it, and it was like, "What did you rate the Fox broadcast this week?" And like 80% was like F minus or something like
Oh
that.
my
So it's
gosh.
like, sheesh.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
I listened to it on mute this week. I'll admit it to you guys. I was watching something else at the same time as the race, so I didn't have to listen to it. So, but I'll let Austin talk about that. I'm kind of curious to hear what was awful about it, in your opinion, Austin.
I um I missed the last 150 laps of the race because I fell asleep. Um, it was that boring. It was that boring. I was out. I watched. I mean, it was terrible. That coupled with the fact that Larson led for 411 laps. Yeah, it was insanely boring. Um, I cannot wait for Fox to not have the race anymore this year. I cannot wait for it to change hands. It's awful.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't speak to the broadcast itself. I know, honestly, I was more concentrated. I know people were saying that they were enjoying watching the Masters more than the Cup race, and they don't even watch golf. That's what majority of what Twitter said, which that's wild to me. I don't like golf either. Like, I can't sit down and watch golf. That's, yeah, but I don't want to get off track too much here. But if there's anything else y'all want to talk about with the broadcast, go ahead.
I think I think not to necessarily defend Fox, but man, I don't know what you do on that race. you know, um, I know that I have heard from a couple people there was some good action going on, like mid pack. I would have loved to seen a lot more of that personally. It's almost like, do we? eh, What's the balance? And like, if there's good racing going on in like 15th to 20th, should the broadcast focus much on that, or should they go back to the lead? At what point? At what point on the broadcast side would it be like, why are they showing me what's going on 21st, right? Even though there's good action back there, what do you think the fan reaction would be? Because I would love to see that as a fan personally, like, hey, let's look at some of this. But at what point is it like, this is kind of irrelevant?
Well, I mean,
You know what?
Formula One does it. I mean, all like the last 2 years where Max has been dominating every race. Um, they, of course, they're not. I mean, if Max has a 25-second lead on second place, they're not going to show Max.
Right.
They're not going to show that. They're not going to show the guy in second place trying to catch up to him. They're showing the
Yeah.
the fights for points, because to get points you have to finish in the top 10. They're showing those guys that are fighting for those points. They're showing those guys that are trying to get into the points. Like they're covering, in all honesty, from P5 back. They're covering it. Um, and that's part of what makes F1 interesting to me is it's not all about who's winning the race. It's are these lower level teams getting points? How are they competing and fighting? So I personally would love to see it in NASCAR because I'm used to seeing it with F1 as an important aspect of the race. Is how are these guys that are kind of in the middle of the pack? How are they trying to work their way up towards the front? And I think they need to focus on that more than somebody who's dominating the race.
Yeah, because the reason I ask is because I've been to great races, I've been to bad races, but especially some of the bad races where somebody's just walking the dog with them. A lot of times there is some really good racing going on in 15th, 20th, heck, even for 30th. Even back there, it's like a dog fight back there, man. They're beating and banging. It's like old school Martinsville at a lot of these tracks. And so I was just curious, like, do you think there would be a bad fan response if they did show 30th? Ken, I know
So
you were going to say
here's
something.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all remember watching the broadcasts, back several years ago, but they used to do this thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've done it in a hot minute. And they would just go through the field. And so essentially what they would do is they would say, um, you know, hey, here's Kyle Larson. He's leading the race. Here's what they did in the last pit stop. Here's what they're doing on the next pit stop. Here's their goal for the day. Here's what they think they can make happen, and on to the next one. All right, so the next one. All right, hey, here's you know, Denny Hamlin. Here's his pitch strategy. Here's where they're hoping that they're going to be able to catch Larson, and here's what they're hey, look, they're going to try to tighten up the car on the next run, and that should give them the edge that they need to go run him down and to contend for the win. And they would stop at every single. They'd go as far as they could until either a commercial break or a caution. Whatever the case was, and talk about every drive. They'd go all the way down into the 20s, and what you're doing is, and they would stop and they'd show this little tracker on the TV. It would be in one of the corners, right, where it would show the leader and it would show them, and it would just you're talking about that team, that driver, you know, hey, Bubba Wallace is running seventh. Here's why. Hey, look, this is a great day for them. Hey, look, they've been struggling or whatever the case is. And Larry Mack, this is why they need them in the booth. That man needs to be in the booth, and I know that he may not, just because he may not want to travel at this point in his career and that sort of thing. He may just say, "Hey, look, just leave me in Charlotte. Let me,
Well, they're all at the
but
track now.
they are." So yeah,
Yeah.
that man needs to be in the booth. He is so good about being able to take somebody. I might disappear from the screen for a second, but y'all should be able to hear me. He's so good at being able to show someone, like let me say, for example, Austin Dillon, who finished 10th, right? He's able to show Austin Dillon and go, hey, look, this is a team that has struggled this year. This is a huge win for Austin Dillon, y'all. And he will help you understand why it's a big win, because in a sport there's so much of a focus on winning, and there should be. Like, winning is everything in NASCAR, and that's awesome, and it's an incredible thing. But there needs to be man. Ty Dillon finished seventh. Like, can we stop and celebrate that? Like something like he didn't. But anyways, so, like, just as an example, or when you have one of those guys, say, Kyle Larson, he has a week where he's just running, which this doesn't never happen, but let's say Kyle Larson, man, he just cannot break into the top 25. And so they go back there. You interview his crew chief. You ask Cliff Daniels, what in the world is wrong with it? Or what did you do to this? Hey, what's happening here? What do y'all need to do for Kyle Larson? Hey, he's typically up front. Why are y'all back here? That sort of thing. They they lack storylines, and if they could find as many storylines they don't need the championship storyline for every race. They don't need it's early in the season. It gets way
Yeah.
too drawn out if you try to push that this early. They don't need
Yeah.
even the regular season points. You don't even need to talk points right now. All you need to do is come up with a storyline for every single driver. And then as the race pans out, you just look at, hey, look, here's where this driver is running. Oh, this is a big deal for them. Let's talk about that. I don't know. That's what I would do. I think that you can, in a very organized and a very simple and even quick way, you can highlight the rest of the field, and all of a sudden, I mean, if there's a battle in the top five, it needs to be on. It needs to be shown. But other than that, I mean, they ought to be, you know, showing more storylines. That's what it's lacking, storylines.
Something too that I got to thinking about, and it was from something that Fox did last week that I actually thought was really good. That I think it would have been more fun if they would have applied this week. Is like obviously William Byron was waxing the field last week, and they brought. And I know it was throwback weekend, but it got me thinking. Like they brought in like Richard Petty, they brought in like Greg Biffle and them, but on the radio sometimes they'll bring in like the track president to come into the booth and talk a little bit, or the sponsor representative to come in and talk a little bit. Do y'all think that would be? Do y'all think that would help with the entertainment side if a race gets kind of like how it did this past week?
It ain't gonna help if they're asleep.
Well, what do you think it would help prevent people from going to sleep though?
It depends when they introduce them, because most of
Yeah,
those guests are, mid race or a certain stage. It's not
right.
They're not there for the first little bit. So
Yeah,
I mean, you could say the same thing about the truck race with Logano being in the broadcast booth, but I mean, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Just thought.
that's a fair thought. Uh, we do need to move on from that. It's a good talk though, especially given that the next few weeks, so there's going to be that transition to Amazon. I mean Prime in regards to that. So there's going to be some. I mean, you're really going to see the contrast to different departments and whatnot in regards to the broadcast. So this was Larson's third victory and his 13th top 10 in 18 races at Bristol. So that's 13 of 18. He's in the top 10. That's a pretty good percentage. I'm not a big math guy, but that's a pretty good percent. Hamlin was right on his tail all day. I mean, you have to imagine that Hamlin was going to be up there in a tire conservation race in quotation marks, because it really wasn't as much as people thought initially. The weather had a good change in regards to the track temperature and the air temperature as well. But I think the real storyline for me, and I hate to say it because I mean we've criticized him on our bonus episode, but I think the real story here is Ty Gibbs showing how good of a race car driver he was. The last 3 weeks have been really good weeks. I think it was 11th and then 10th from ninth and now third. Like he's on that change, that upswing, right? And I feel like that was the storyline because even at the beginning of the race, you've seen him shooting the outside, trying something different early in the race, and that's what you need. So I've been, well, we've all been very critical of what Ty Gibbs has done this year. I mean, in all honesty, he shouldn't be 20th in points, but that's where he is. But now he's starting to show kind of, a little bit of the gleam of what the Xfinity Ty Gibbs used to be. So I think that's the real storyline here. You can sit here and, talk about Larson all you want to, but everybody knows he's great. He's going to go, I mean, injury, as long as an injury doesn't happen or anything like that, he's going to be a Hall of Famer at this point if he keeps winning races at this clip every year. I mean, for I don't know how much longer he's got. Most drivers, try to race into their 40s now. You can start trying to do the calculations with that, but in all regards, people are going to talk about Larson for a while. Ty Gibbs is the future. He is if he turns out good performances. That's the thing, and we haven't seen it till the last 3 weeks, but let's just give Ty Gibbs his due. I mean, in all honesty here, if we're going to be critical about somebody whenever they do something right, we're going to mention it on the podcast. Like, hey, you showed us.
You got a good point. I mean, um, I know his spotter on Door Bumper Clear last week predicted Ty Gibbs to win, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, he's a spotter, so he almost kind of has to, right? But if the race would have been a little bit more uh, equal, right? He might have had a chance, but he is doing much better. I don't know what the difference maker's been. That'd be interesting to see maybe what that is here in the next couple weeks. But it seems like things are starting to finally click, and I'm happy for Joe Gibbs on that for sure.
What about you, Austin? I know it's been 3 weeks. I get where your rationale is, but I also feel like it's important to mention it from my end.
He had a good weekend. He qualified sixth, finished third. Gibbs as a whole looked half decent this past weekend. Bristol's a track he's good at. I mean, he led almost 200 laps there last spring, or was it last spring? Yeah. Before Danny just one race last year, I think he led like 270 something laps. So it's definitely a track that's kind of in his wheelhouse and where he's good. I'm not gonna say that I'm happy for him, but it's you know it's something that he should have been doing already with the equipment that he's got.
Fair observation. 100%. What about you, Kent? I want to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked that he ran well at Bristol. Kind of like Austin said, he led a lot there last year. Um, I actually had a kid in our youth group on Sunday morning found me after church and said, "Hey, I'm picking, in my fantasy lineup, I've got Ty Gibbs. I think he might win it." And he was almost right, and well, he was and he wasn't. I mean, no one was going to catch Larson, but at the same time,
Right.
it was a great run for Ty Gibbs compared to what he's been doing this year. But if you're ever having the conversation, man, third place, way to go, atta boy, finally.
Good
But you're
boy.
driving a Joe Gibbs racing car. You're driving a Joe Gibbs racing, machine. That's the wrong conversation. That people shouldn't be having that conversation about you. They should be going third place. Cool, on to the next. Not, hey, all right, maybe that'll get something started. No, I mean that's so. I want to see if this turns into something that gets drawn out. I want to see how he does. I know we get a week off with Cup this week. Um, I want to see how he does for the rest of. Obviously the rest of the season. I think he's going to gravitate towards the playoffs and make it. I just think that's what's going to happen with this equipment. Um, but time will tell. I mean, it's the way it is with everything, right? Time will tell. I think he's going to be one of these drivers that's around for a while. He came into the sport. He won in his first Xfinity start. And I think that maybe I think Ty Gibbs himself and I couldn't prove this. I don't know, but I have to wonder if he just kind of got a little, I don't know, a little lethargic after being so successful at the Xfinity. I mean, dominant at the Xfinity level, and then he comes to Cup and he's like, man, I won first thing in Xfinity Series. What's the big deal? And then he's found out, and it's going to take. But remember, I mean, he's not as far into his career as Chase Elliott got without a win. Now, if Ty is going to continue that route, he's going to have to win here in the next, few months because Chase was, it was into the summer months of his third season, and we're getting there with Ty, so he's going to have to, really find something soon. Chase also had like what 9 runner-ups, so I don't think Ty is there. So, you're going to have to definitely start finishing
I mean,
better.
I mean, Bristol's the one track he's good at. I mean, it's the one track where he's consistently ran well. So I mean, I want to see how he does with the 1.5-mile slate coming up, because we're about to have Texas, we're about to have Kansas, we're about to have Charlotte. All three of those, even though they're 1.5 miles, they're vastly different.
Yeah.
I know Texas, but um,
uh,
but
you could
you know,
tell we're really excited about making that episode. Let me tell you.
gosh, but they're all difficult tracks in their own right. Texas, Kansas, Charlotte, for different reasons. Um, I want to see how he does through there, because in my personal opinion, those how you perform on those tracks says a lot about how you are as a driver, because they're all so different.
I think my main point wasn't just the top three at Bristol. It's been the 3 weeks, the 3 consecutive good weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Now, I know that's not a big, permission slip, like, hey, forget the rest of the season. Obviously not. But it's more or less just, I feel like maybe his mindset's just getting where it needs to be, in all honesty, because we've seen him in equipment dominate. Like you said, he won his first Xfinity race. He dominated the Xfinity series for a while when he was there. Now there, and you can say it's the jump, the cup, different cars, whatever. There's really no big excuse that you can make for not winning yet. You can say the same thing about Chase. Chase had no excuse for when he didn't get his wins. Now, was he performing well? Absolutely. Gibbs has not performed as well, but we've seen glimpses of it, like we've seen at the Open when he won the Open race at North Wilkesboro. There's been glimpses, but it's just, I don't know. I just felt like it was important for me to say. It was more, maybe it was just more of a me thing, guys. I don't talk that much other than just, facilitate.
No,
But
it's definitely eye opening for sure. It's like, okay, has it turned the table? Because like, yeah, with that kind of equipment, it shouldn't have to be the storyline. But at the end of the day, you've got the grandson of an owner who's been struggling, and now he's kind of turning the tide. I mean, his name's on the building, right? So
yeah,
if I'm sure if he can win, that'll definitely help the morale for that team for sure. And because when the weak link can rise up to the top with the others, then that's going to continue to be a dangerous team.
just a few extra statistical things here for this week. Hamlin posted his 20th top 10 finish in 36 races at Bristol, and that was also his 6th top 10 of the year so far. So I know that we've mentioned, Hamlin. We've been like, man, Hamlin's not been that great, but he's been in the top 10 a lot this year. It's just he hasn't been, in the victory circle. So I felt like that was a cool thing to add. Also, so Kent brought this up. So the Jeff Gluck poll this week, Pete, finally 34,000 votes, right? 20% said that Bristol was a good race, and 79.9% said it was a bad race. Let me read you the races that are below it in the poll era. For reference, let's see here. There are 7 or 8 races. 2019 Phoenix, the second race, the fall race, when Hamlin won. Charlotte Roval when Bell won in 2022. William Byron when he won Martinsville in 2022. The All-Star race in 2017 when Kyle Busch won. 16 Indy when Kyle Busch won. 2022 Texas when Reddick won.
That was awful. That was a really bad race.
In the worst race is the 2022 Texas All-Star race when Blaney won.
Oh, that was the big wind in that gate.
11% voted yes on that race. So I think, did I think this was a terrible race? I didn't think it was a terrible race. I didn't find it an exciting race. But when I'm looking at like races like Martinsville 2022, that was an awful race. That was
Absolutely.
a terrible race.
Everything was terrible about that.
That was a terrible race to watch as a broadcast and being there in person.
And
then you had this race that's within 1.6% of being that close. Give me a break. Just give me a friggin' break.
I think, and here's where the poll is, I think, kind of based on emotions, right? I think Saturday got everybody's hopes up of, oh my gosh, we're going to see another huge, tremendous tire strategy race, right? You at least were excited thinking about, oh my gosh, we're going to see who can manage them, and is it going to be like last year? And you had all this hype, and it just wasn't. And so, and I'll be the first to say, I mean, y'all know it just as well as anybody. I mean, I was ranting and raving after the race, but I went back and after I kind of calmed down about it, right? I went back and I'm like, okay, I don't mind that race as much, but it was lackluster for Bristol, if I had to describe it. There was, I tried to watch in like the other angles of the image that Fox was projecting, and I saw a lot of two side-by-side racing. Whether they were passing or not, I don't know. But it did seem like there were some competitive battles around the track, but it wasn't filled with action up front, you know? I mean, and like, I love it if they're battling for 30th, right? But it's so much more entertaining to watch a battle for the lead. So
I guess my main point is the races that are underneath this, there are some that are way, way, way worse. Like this race doesn't even belong in the same category as what they have, right?
I agree with you. I fully agree with that.
And I see some races that are above that where I'm like, man, that race really wasn't that great. And it's got 20, 30% on it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that. Points, Bale on top, 3 wins. Hamlin, Larson, 2 wins each. William Byron got that 1 Daytona 500 win. You got Josh Berry. Chase Elliott is the one that is leading after that in just strict points. You got Blaney, Reddick, Bubba, Logano. He's in. He's in, my boy. He's in. And Bowman's right behind him. 11th. Busher, Chastain, Briscoe, Priest, and Kyle Busch are all in the playoffs at this point.
Some stage wins for Logano.
Yeah.
It's keeping him
Most
alive.
definitely. And then just outside, first car outside is AJ Allmendinger. 2 points out.
Can Dinger do it? Can Dinger make it?
Yeah.
If he wins the dang race, I feel like he's got a good chance. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 18th. No DNFs this year. The only 1 or 2 teams that's not had a DNF.
All right, that's saying something. 0 DNFs, and you're still 18th in points. That is tough.
Well,
had a good car, like in general, like qualifying speed, but just, I mean, he's racing for an organization that's a 1-car team. That says a lot.
Next week's his wheelhouse.
We know who Austin's going to pick next week. Oh, boy. Michael McDowell 19th and Ty Gibbs 20th. So that's your top 20 in points. All right. Moving on. This week we have no cup race to talk about. So but we do have a historic racetrack that we're going to be able to go to. Me specifically, because I'm actually going to the race. There was someone that was supposed to go that's also on this podcast, but he decided that he hates NASCAR now. He's never going to go to another NASCAR race.
I'm boycotting after this weekend.
Yeah, so
this ain't like when Dale raced.
Forward. So, you guys got to remember the truck race. You have the Craftsman Triple Truck Challenge, right? So the extra 50K. This will be the last race of that. So they've been talking about that on the broadcast. I don't feel like I got to beat that horse anymore, but just know that. So Black's Tire 200. We got 4 drivers. I would consider, drivers that are ones that you wouldn't see a lot. You got Brandon Jones in the 1 again this week. You got Sammy Smith in the 07. I guess Larson didn't want to, take the flyer this week and drive to Rockingham and arrive. So they gave Sammy Smith the ride. Corey Day in the 7, and 75 of Parker Kligerman. Those are the 4 main trucks that are ones that you wouldn't see week to week all the time. So in the Xfinity Series, we got a whole bunch. Got 2 cars that aren't going to make it this week. We got Patrick Ameling, the 19, Catherine Legg making another return in the 32. Casey Kane, that's the big one. And I mean that you got to think that 33, man, that's a number for him, right? So it's gonna be good to see that on the track. Greg Van Alst, Vincent Salas. The 53 is to be announced, but I believe uh, they're still looking for sponsorship at this point for Joey Gage Racing. So I'm not. Have they announced the driver, Blake, for the ride this week?
No, I assumed it might just be Joey Gase if I had to guess, but no, they have not.
Yeah, you got Dawson Cram in 74, Austin Green in the 87, and Josh Balecki in the 91. So that's basically it. So we're going to throw it to the old, let's see here. You know what? I'm going to spice it up a little bit. I'm going to give it to Austin first this week.
All right. So, Rockingham. What do we have? What do we do with a track that we haven't raced on since 2013?
Cry.
Trucks haven't raced here since 2013, and Cup hasn't raced here since 2004. So for almost a decade, this place has been left basically desolate until the track was bought by a group of investors in 2018. So there's nothing really valuable in the past on what to expect. This track, it used to be a staple on the NASCAR schedule. It was the first track raced at after Dale died. But the track was repaved back in 2022, so this is fairly fresh and unused for the most part. But the interesting thing is no one really knows what we're going to expect, because based off of testing done in January, which I'll get to in a second, a lot has changed. But here's the specs of the track. It's a D-shaped track. It is a mile long D-shaped track. The front stretch has 8 degrees of banking that then leads into turns 1 and 2 with 22 degrees of banking. The back stretch is 8 degrees of banking as well, and turns 3 and 4 are a bit different with a touch steeper banking at 25 degrees. The thing that this track is known for is speed, and with this new repave, that is even more the case than it has been in the past. In testing, they already were breaking the track records for speed. In the first day of testing, Ty Majeski and truck logged the fastest lap of the day with an average speed of 166.5 miles per hour around Rockingham Speedway. The fastest for Xfinity belonged to Corey Day, I believe at 162.4 miles per hour in speed. For reference, the official track record belongs to Rusty Wallace, who in 2000 had the fastest speed at 158 miles per hour.
They booking, boys.
They
They booking.
Yeah,
they
hauling
they
tail.
they are hoofing it around this track.
Austin is our turns 3 and 4 is it a bit of progressive banking? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Is it steeper as you go higher?
I think so. I think it is.
Awesome.
Turns 3 and 4, it's kind of got a washboard kind of effect to it at times. For what I remember off of the old races I watched of it, so that aspect of it has not changed. They said that I think one of the drivers that I think it was Kane. He said that it was. Looking at the track, it still has that washboard kind of effect where turns 3 and 4 can take you out if you're not careful. But one reminder to take into account with the speeds that we're seeing, this testing was done in the winter. It was a chilly day when they tested. This week they're calling for temps to be in the 80s. So it's going to be I mean, it's going to be different than it was in January when they tested. It's going to be probably about a 45-degree difference than what the truck drivers were running um, on that day in January. Ross Chastain is not planning on running in the race, but he did partake in that test, and he said the high speeds were something that he did not expect. He said the track is really fast, and he said that the track bore little similarity to the one that he raced in the Truck Series back in 2012. Um, so basically, drivers have said take everything that you have known about Rockingham in the past and throw it in the trash. There's some aspects of the track that will remain the same, but overall, it's going to feel like a completely different track. But all the drivers loved it. All the drivers talked about how fun it was to run, how fast the track was, um, and really now that this seems to be getting back on the NASCAR schedule, there's no track like Rockingham. No track on the Cup Series schedule mirrors Rockingham in the slightest. And so I'm excited for this weekend. I've been looking forward to this weekend since the beginning of the year because for several reasons. Rockingham, that's near my neck of the woods. That's near where I grew up. It's probably about 45 minutes from where I grew up. I've driven past that track multiple times. Um, and you know, all everybody in my area that I grew up in was sad when NASCAR stopped racing at the Rock. And so I'm excited for it. As we said, Cup isn't racing here. It's just Truck and Xfinity and ARCA. But as for guys that are good here, yeah, no, there's no list there for that. Um, there's no list there for that on guys that are having the only guy doing that is Casey Kane. Um, since 2013 was the last race for Truck, and then Xfinity and Cup I think stopped racing in '04 as well. So yeah, this one will be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I know you guys are as well. We've talked about it. I know all of us are hoping that this actually gets onto the Cup Series schedule. Hopefully with an All-Star race or something. Moving forward, if this is a success. So I guess I'll throw it over to Kent. I guess if that's what Cole wants. I don't.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, you said throw the history in the trash. Kent's gonna be like taking it out of the trash and throwing it in your face.
There you go. Speaking of trash, this is a free story, guys. This morning I forgot to take the trash to the curb, and so as I was getting out of the shower, I heard the trash truck driving by, and I threw on my clothes, didn't even put shoes on, grabbed the trash can, and like chased the truck down the road. I made it, but that was a sight to behold. I got laughed at. Anyways,
Did you have a shirt on?
I did have a shirt on.
Shame.
Darn.
I know it's a shame.
Dang it.
It's a daggone shame. But anyways, no, I didn't want to blind anyone. Um, so you know, th like Austin said, there's a lot of history um, with this track. I mean, it opened on Halloween of 1965. And, maybe that's a little bit of a precursor to what to expect this weekend. There's so much unknown. So much unknown. I love that about this going into it. It's going to be a driver's track. I would expect the ones who run well at Darlington to run well here. Um, because it's going to have that similar. I remember, and I know I probably if I ever start comparing iRacing to stuff too much, y'all tell me. Um, but the first this was probably the hardest oval for me to figure out how to drive. Um, I was just not good at it. I'd get out there and I'd spin out I'd nail turns one and two. I'd be like, all right, I got it. And then three and four would get me. And then I'd get three and four, one and two would get me. You get loose coming off of two as you get right up against the fence going down the back straightaway. And then three and four, you really have to calculate, how far up the banking you want to go and um what your exit's going to look like and that sort of thing, so that way you can get down the front stretch as good as possible. It is going to be great. I hope it doesn't blow. I think it's going to be great racing. As far as a specific moment in time for this racetrack, I feel like that often gets overlooked. Austin, uh, you kind of alluded to it a little bit when you were speaking, but in 2001, this sport lost Dale Earnhardt at Daytona, and it had to move on. It had to hit the road the next weekend and get some things going. That was the only way that it was going to be able to heal, right? Now we remember what happened when they went to Atlanta a few weeks later, right? We remember what happened in Atlanta that spring. Earnhardt's car, driven by Kevin Harvick, goes to victory lane, barely holding off a hard charging Jeff Gordon there at the end of the race. Gordon wins that race if it weren't for lap traffic. As a Gordon fan, I'm throwing that in there. But anyways, uh, but we remember that, right? We remember Harvick's celebration. He turns around, faces the crowd. In fact, when he won it for the second time at Atlanta, all the way in 2018, I was there, and it was really cool to see him turn back around, face the crowd, and hold three fingers up out the window. I think it just woke Wesley up, anyways. And so just a really, really, really cool thing. Um, what often gets overlooked is who won that Rockingham race when they went back racing. Steve Park. Now, if you're wondering who on earth is Steve Park drove the number one Pennzoil Chevrolet Monte Carlo for Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. He drove for Dale in a car owned by Dale. And so, as the sport was trying to recover and heal, it was none other than a DEI car that goes to victory lane. Um, that season had a way of being poetic, in the way that Dale was honored. Even from that win to Harvick's to Junior's win at Daytona, for the you know was it the Firecracker 400 yet, or was it still the Pepsi 4?
I think it was
Anyways, whatever
Pepsi.
it was,
Yeah.
it was Pepsi. So, but anyways, I mean, you just look at how poetic that season went. Um, but an emotional victory for Steve Park as Dale Earnhardt Incorporated tried to figure out what this sport was going to look like without Dale Earnhardt, which is going to be really hard to kind of move on without your namesake. This track has had incredible moments. Even the last time the Cup guys were there, one of the guys who's going to be in the Xfinity field, Casey Kane, coming so close to beating Elliott Sadler there for the win, but just came out, or what? No, it was Matt Kenseth, wasn't it? Casey Kane, was it Matt Kenseth or Elliott Sadler that he finished door to door with right there at
I think it was
Rockingham in
Kansas.
2004? I think it was Kenseth.
I think, yeah.
Anyways, so I remember it being the yellow Ford. But anyway, so he came so close to catching Kenseth and side by side. And again, he was kind of in that position that Chase was for so long in his career. Had a lot of runner-up finishes, but couldn't get the win. And I remember that being one more runner-up finishes, his rookie season. But Rockingham has lended itself to some pretty big moments. Um, and it was Matt Kenseth. Thanks for confirming that for us. But yeah, that's there's been so many good finishes, exciting moments, and heartfelt moments at this track. And I'm looking forward to especially seeing a veteran like Casey Kane in the field when when the Xfinity Series returns this Saturday.
Especially with how Casey Kane's career ended towards the end of his
Oh,
career. It's kind of nice
yeah.
to have him have a nice bookmark at the end of it. If this is going to be
Yeah.
the end, it'll be nice to see. So,
And I will say this, I worry that knowing why his career ended, some of the health stuff, and knowing it's going to be as hot as it's going to be, I'm hoping that he's got what it takes in the tank to be able to go and give 100% effort for every lap of this race. I think if he does, he could have an outside shot at winning it. But it'll definitely, like you said, it'll be a cool way for him to say, "Hey, man, I got to go out, on my own terms."
He's also been running dirt races and stuff in the hot summer months, so he's been getting seat time and whatnot in good conditions that would be kind of relatable. Especially, I mean, it's gonna be hot, but it's not gonna be like July hot. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
Like
true.
Daytona July. That's oh my
And I
gosh,
guess what I'm getting at is I worry more about the fatigue with the distance of this race, if that
that's
makes
fair.
sense.
Yeah,
Knowing that because he definitely is going to be accumulated to the heat, and like you said, it's not as hot as it could be.
they also
But
they've got the innovation with the cool suits and stuff now
that's
too.
true.
That will help.
That's
So,
true. Anyways,
all right.
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Mr. Tire Man, tell us especially about how these trucks are going to run. I want to hear the exact compound length and everything the truck race is going to run.
I know they're going to run 15-inch diameter tires. I know that much. But no, the source I usually get a lot of my information from actually had zero information on the truck tires. So it's a repave. Expected to be fast on that. I do know that the trucks are going to have 5 sets of tires for this race, so that should be more than plenty with the repave. But for the Xfinity, and there was some notes, I'll focus primarily on that. Xfinity's getting 7 sets, and like Austin said, there was a repave in 2022, which obviously means, and we've said it on here, it's going to be fast. And a lot of times, repaves don't necessarily mean tons of fall off. So I personally wouldn't expect tons of fall off this week. But Kent, it was interesting you said that anybody who's good at Darlington would probably be good here because they're going to use the Homestead and the Darlington tire for Xfinity for this weekend. So, um, interesting that you said that. I can offer just a couple clues on maybe how this will go. I think you'll have some fall off. I don't think you'll have tons just from the new repave. I did do some research. Ross Chastain did say that the groove is actually already widening out a little bit, so that means that it's going to have some character to it. A lot of repaves, especially without the exception of this new car, a lot of repaves it's usually going to be one groove, maybe 1.5 grooves. So it does have some characteristics to it. So maybe that means there's going to be a little bit more fall off because it's going to have some character. They are also running inner liners in the tires this week, so essentially that's going to be higher protection for the tires. So it kind of makes you wonder, well, because of how hot it's going to be, because of the progressive banking that's going to be in these corners, maybe Goodyear's expecting that it might be a little bit more wear. We really won't know until we get there. Trying to look through a lot of my notes here. The biggest thing with this weekend, definitely watch the right front tires because with the amount of speed, the amount of banking, if there's going to be any wear, it's going to be on that right front. So you might hear the broadcast and the radio guys talk about that. Last thing that I just kind of want to say, those are some kind of clues that I can offer. It's really going to depend on how much this track has actually aged, right? So NASCAR has gotten a lot better at doing repaves in a way that makes it age so that you don't have a track like Michigan that still hasn't recovered from the repave it had back in like 2010 or whenever it was, because they used to do some solid repaves, but it makes for bad racing because it only usually does one groove. So at the end of the day, what I just want to say, whatever the tire situation is this weekend, have grace with it. Just be glad that racing is back at the Rock. here's my personal way of kind of comparing what it might be like. 3 years into a repave, I think you'll probably see a correlation of what the tire wear is like here. I think you're going to see the same thing at Wilkesboro because that's going to be in the year 2, year 3 of a repave. So, like you look at Wilkesboro when they first went, the track was super old, couldn't really race on it hardly because of how old it was. New surface, new surface doesn't usually produce good racing, but now that you're in your 3rd year of it, I think you're going to start to see some better racing. I think that's going to be probably the best analogy I can make on how to interpret this repave, right? So it's going to be tough to say, but overall, have grace with it. Be thankful that racing's back at the Rock, and obviously, I'm sure Cole will talk about this. It's going to be a sold-out crowd, so it's good already. But go ahead, Cole. That's all I have on the tires.
Well, it's sold out, so you can't buy no tickets.
Yeah.
So I ain't going to beg you to buy tickets like I did last week with Bristol, and obviously no one heard me. No one heard me. Our 4 listeners did not hear to buy a ticket. It was it wasn't a terrible crowd, but it wasn't a great crowd. I've seen worse, but not much worse, especially for Bristol. But so Rockingham, right? I mean, everybody's excited about it. Is my video showing right now when I'm on the screen or not? Okay,
yeah, it
good. Is. Okay, so I have the event pulled up. So there's 2 days at the racetrack. You got Friday and Saturday. You got the ARCA race on Saturday, along with the Xfinity Series, and the truck races on Friday. But you got different practice sessions and stuff. If you're wanting to get some autographs by Xfinity and truck drivers, the truck drivers Friday, 11 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. in the fan zone. There's no specific location for that, but most of the time you can go to the NASCAR fan experience stage, and that's going to be where they usually push you in the right direction. So that would be my suggestion. I will be right there with the rest of you trying to figure out where the crap I'm supposed to go. So that'll be fun. Even though I don't have any much truck stuff, I only have a Ben Rhodes truck diecast from his win at Daytona. It's the only thing I got to get signed. And then there is an Xfinity driver's autograph session from 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. in the fan zone on Saturday. I'm hoping that Casey Kane's going to be there because I actually have a diecast that's coming in that I want to get signed by him. So I don't know. I would probably say probably not, knowing how much of a prominent driver he is. But hey, you got to be optimistic coming into the weekend. But what most people don't know, Thursday is what they call Thunderfest in downtown Rockingham. I know Austin probably knows what I'm talking about since he lives around that area pretty close. This is a historic thing. They always have a festival, and this year's theme would be, "Hey, welcome back, NASCAR." They have a kids fan zone. They have NASCAR driver appearances. They're random based, but I've heard Kenny Wallace is going to be there, along with other drivers, so that's going to be really cool. The Marshall Tucker Band will be there live, free concert. That is 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. So if you're going to plan on going to the race and you're staying for the weekend, maybe come in an extra day on that Thursday and get a free concert by one of the best Southern rock bands of all time. Get to see a couple of drivers. I think maybe some current and some former drivers, and just get to enjoy that. I won't be able to make it, but I would highly suggest it. So, is the truck race also sold out, Blake, or is it just the Xfinity race?
It looks like just the Xfinity
and ARCA
Saturday.
day.
Yeah.
Saturday sold
So,
out.
I mean, guys, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I feel like the truck series has probably been the best racing all year, in my opinion. I think that might be the hot ticket this week. I know everybody wants to see Casey Kane return, but I think that truck race is going to be a barn burner. I really do.
I think what's nice, and I think the reason that I think we will get Cup racing back here soon, is it's sold out for Xfinity. That Saturday sold out. The fans said, "I know this is an Xfinity race, but we're happy that NASCAR is back at Rockingham, and we want the Cup Series to return here as well." So they did what we tell them to do every week: get your butt in a seat, and they
Yeah.
did it.
It's kind of like, I'm sure now, Austin, I know you're kind of more from the Rockingham area, whereas I'm more from like the Wilkesboro area, right? So I think we can kind of, whereas you probably have a lot of nostalgia running by or driving by the track at Rockingham, I had a lot of nostalgia just driving by a dead racetrack heading up to Boone on 421 growing up, right? And I remember it was they brought the modified race in 2022, and essentially the front stretch was pretty much sold out. And they brought a Cars Tour race there, and they had to delay the race because so many people were trying to get in, and that place was packed. And you thought to yourself, well, my gosh, this can sell out for a Cars Tour. What kind of potential does it have for a Cup race, or even just a truck race? And so I sure hope they do, for Rockingham also. I hate I can't be there. It's just a lot of work obligations on Resurrection weekend, right? But if this is not on Easter next year, I'm definitely going to do my best to go. It's just kind of tough on especially in the South here.
I would also say with the Cars Tour thing, they did have the benefit of having Dale Jr. racing in that race. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of support for that. But in general, yeah, I agree with all that sentiment. So if you want to buy a truck ticket, website is www.racetherock.com. I mean, you better get it now. I mean, in all honesty, and they had a fantastic deal. You could buy truck, ARCA, and the Xfinity series. I think for all like $80 altogether
Oh
after
wow.
taxes and whatnot.
Yeah, that ain't
That's
bad.
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic for 3 races.
Oh, absolutely.
So, alrighty. So we're gonna move on to our spicy take segment here, and you know what? We all missed this week. I mean, except for Austin, technically, right? You said there would be 15 cars on the lead lap. There was only 9, so I could consider that a partial success because I mean, you didn't say less than, you just said
Yeah.
15. But I think I'll let you have it. I'll let you have it because
What a
that was
nice
pretty good.
guy, man.
Kent first said that Larson was not going to finish in the truck race. That was his first prediction. And he also said that he would sweep. He went back and forth. So I put both of them on there for him.
Hmm.
Neither of those happened. So he is 0 for 2 in the first time of spicy takes. So Jesse Love in the top 15
No.
in the Cup series, he finished 31st. Right where Austin Hill pretty much finished the week before in that
Yeah.
33 car. And I also had Corey LaJoy in the top 13, and he finished 34th. So it is what it is.
It'd be
So
what it be.
I'll let Austin pick last because that gives him time to think on it. The person that missed the most would be the person that missed 2 takes in a row. I'm going to give it to Kent. Let's hear his spicy take for this week.
Awesome. All right, so we're this is spicy take for Rockingham. Is that correct?
Si, senor.
Oh man, I'm gonna say that the tire's gonna get away from them. I'm gonna say that I'm gonna say that there are multiple, so at least 2, but possibly a lot more. I'm gonna say there are multiple cautions for tire failure related accidents in the Xfinity race. That they'll have. Is that race is not being run? Are there lights at Rockingham?
So they're starting the race at 5, just for reference.
I said there might. I don't know.
They got 3
Well,
hours to get it in.
Well, I
I'll
thought
just
the
say
race
it's going to
started at
be
4.
Well, one of them starts at 5.
well. It's
Truck
Oh,
so it's
starts
truck,
going to
5.
be
Truck starts
truck
5.
race, yeah.
so it's going to be warm. But they're really going to be. I think Blake, you mentioned that right front tire. I think they're going to be pushing it a lot harder than they even did at Darlington, and just with the way the speeds are going to be. So I'm going to predict that there are multiple tire failure related cautions early in the race that cause maybe folks to really think about conserving their tire wear for the rest of the race.
So I think I'll go next since my driver did worse than Blake's 34th compared to 31st. I'm going to say that ARCA is going to have less cautions than Truck or Xfinity. That's going to
Okay.
be my first time in Spicy Take history that we've even mentioned ARCA. So, alrighty, Mr. Balaco, let's hear it.
I say they announced the 2026 race weekend at Rockingham during the races this weekend.
On broadcast or went in person? Because in
Both.
person you won't be able to hear it.
Well, they
It's
might
flat.
do it on the radio, but yeah, I think they'll do it on the broadcast. Kind of like the first year that they did Bristol Dirt, and they said, "Well, guys, it's coming back next year," right in the broadcast. So I think that's what'll happen with Rockingham this year.
So
Will they announce
you're
Cup?
predicting Cup. That's what I was going to ask. Are you predicting Cup?
Yeah, they'll predict. Yeah, they'll announce Cup this weekend.
All-star race or just regular race?
All-star race because I think some other SMI tracks might get moved around. So I
Or
think it's
they may just not go to Mexico next year.
fine with me. I mean,
Just throwing it
why
out
put
there.
yourself through that?
All right, Austin. Let's hear it.
I am predicting that William Sawalich finally gets a breakthrough and gets his first top 10 since Coda. Dude, he has been on a horrible streak the last several races. Like started decent and then just couldn't didn't have it. I don't know what it was, like getting caught up in wrecks or whatnot. So I think Sawalich is going to get out. He'll get a top 5.
Nice.
Okay.
I like it. So that's our spicy takes, and I'm gonna let Austin take over his segment. Speaking about someone that's had some bad performances and might had a good performance, we'll mirror that here in a little bit. So,
All right, so we'll cover trucks first. With our week this past week at Bristol, Kent got the dub this week, picking Larson. Didn't win, but he finished P2. Heim, who was selected by Cole, finished P3. Riggs, selected by Blake, finished P6. And then Enfinger finished P12, and that was who I selected. Looking at the regular season points, I'm currently in the lead with 17. Blake is second with 15. Kent is tied with Blake at 15. And then Cole is on the bottom with 13. But he did have a good week this week with Heim finishing P3. Looking at Rockingham, I pick first this week. I cannot pick Larson, Rhodes, or Enfinger. I know, me and Cole kind of talked about it. Heim is available, but I see Texas and Kansas coming up on the horizon. More proven track, Rockingham. It's kind of a dice roll with what to expect. But I'm going to base my decision off of preseason testing. This guy had one of the fastest cars here. Usually he runs well at tracks like Homestead and Darlington. Give me Mr. Ty Majeski for my pick today.
good veteran presence. I like that. It's a good pick.
Looking at Blake Balake, he cannot pick Chandler Smith, William Byron, or Lane. Who are you taking, Mr. Balake?
Gamble a little bit. Give me Heim.
Interesting. He said, "Screw Texas and Kansas. I'm going to take him here." Coleman, you cannot pick Majeski, Riggs, or Heim. Who are you taking?
It's a hard one for me because I'm going between two drivers right now, two drivers that don't make consistent starts every week. I mean, you kind of want to say Brandon Jones because how good he did at Darlington. It'd be a flyer pick, but give me Mr. Chrome Dome, Sammy Smith.
All right. And then finishing up, we have Kent. Kent, you cannot pick Hemrick, Day, or Larson. Who you got?
Dadgummit, I was going to pick Hemrick. Okay, give me a second. That's a bummer. I'm pulling up that entry list right now. No thank you to the advertising. Man, all right. Well, I can pick Brandon Jones though, right?
Yep.
You can.
So give me Brandon.
All right.
I feel like Matt Crafton's going to be like surprisingly good this week because I considered picking him at one point too.
So looking ahead to we will not have a truck race next week. Trucks don't race at Dega this time of year.
Sad.
We will have a week off from truck next week. Looking at Xfinity. Looking at Xfinity, I came in with the dub this week, picking Larson, finished P1. Kent came in second with Allgaier finishing P3. Cole came in third with Love finishing P6. And Blake came in last with Mayer P11, I
Yes,
think.
sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. So looking at Rockingham this week, we'll look at our standings first. I'm in the lead with 27 points. Cole is second with 22. Kent third with 21. And Blake on the bottom with 20 points. So Blake, looking at Rockingham this week, you cannot pick Almirola, Allgaier, or Mayer.
Give me Ryan Sieg.
That is a wild first pick.
Here's why. He raced, I think, the two times he raced at Rockingham, in the trucks, and so he's probably the one with some of the most experience with this track. So
That's fair, but
it
also
it might not correlate, but
yeah. I'm about to say with Austin saying throw all history and statistics in the trash. That's an interesting pick.
well, he's
I respect it.
yeah. Let's go Ryan Sieg this week. I think he
right,
might. I think he gets his first win.
That was a driver that I was considering
Towards the bottom.
with my last pick. All right. Cole, you cannot pick Sanchez, Bell, or Jesse Love.
I feel like the pick is obvious for me. One of the drivers that Blake could not pick. I'm gonna go with Justin Allgaier this week.
Yeah.
Little Gator.
Good veteran presence. Was really good at Darlington. So if it correlates to Darlington, then it's gonna be a tough one out there.
I respect it. Kent, you cannot pick Quapple, Elliott, or Allgaier. Who you taking?
I'm gonna go Brandon Jones again.
Okay.
All right.
Dang,
And
Austin,
then-
you got all kinds of good drivers left to pick from.
I wasn't expecting this, so I wasn't expecting this many drivers to be at my disposal. Gosh, this is really hard.
Cap and leg.
I am going to. Gosh, this is hard. Between two, I didn't expect these two to be available for me.
Flip a coin. Flip a coin.
Give me the guy that has 5 top 5s this year. Give me Sam Mayer. He runs well at Homestead, runs well at Darlington usually. Bouncing back after not his best week at Bristol. I'm going Mayer.
I like it.
I was between him and Creed. That's who I was between.
He'd have a literal bounce back week.
We will have Xfinity next week for Dega. Usually, how Dega works is Xfinity runs the spring and then Truck runs the fall. So we will have that. Looking at our championship predictions, all of us have ours locked in. So Xfinity is actually it's pretty tight between everybody at this point in time. So we've all been doing pretty well. Kent got his first win at Darlington a couple of weeks ago. So we don't have Cup this week, but we are going to recap what happened this past week at Bristol. Kent finally got the monkey off of his back.
The curse is over.
Finally.
In a huge way. How about the first perfect race for the pod? I mean,
For the
that was
2025
awesome.
era.
Man, I think it was a stretch of like 16, 17 races, something like that, since
Yeah.
Kent's last win.
In July of last year.
July of last year. That's crazy.
That's rough. That's really rough.
But and man, he's had a tremendous 2 weeks. He came in second last week, but he picked up 5 points because he predicted a stage win correctly. And then this week, he swept all the stages and got the race win. So he has jumped 11 points in 2 weeks, which
Hey.
has shuffled Blake from second to last in 2 weeks.
Well, and I've gone from I was 11 points behind you, Austin, and now I could catch you in the next race if things keep going in my favor. I'm not going to though. I'm going to end up back in dead last. But
I don't know.
anyways, it was
He's got his 1 year
so
for
nice.
his 1 win this year. He's done.
I'm just gonna check out for the rest of the year.
He's got to beat the rest of his streak. So Cole finished second with Hamlin finishing P2. I finished in third with Bell finishing P8. And we told Blake this wasn't going to be a good pick. But Bowman finished P37 with engine failure. I believe it was an engine failure.
It was.
P37. So when we talk about Dega next week, a place that all of us have visited, he will have the not so coveted first pick for a plate track. But to be fair, Blake did win the last plate track. He did correctly win that. So looking at the driver standings, I'm still holding on to first place with 29 points. Kent is in second. He has gone from last to second in a matter of weeks with 25 points. Cole is third with 22, and then Blake is back where he was 2 years ago on the bottom with
Hey, I was on the
21
bottom last
points.
year too at the first start of the year. I was, and I remind myself
I don't
every day
remember
looking
that.
at my die cast.
Oh, here we go.
Oh man, yeah. Look at it good. Look at it real good because you ain't gonna get another one.
I'm already making room for the second one.
That thing's going to have corrosion on it before you get another one, buddy.
Oh,
But as we have said, we do not have Cup this week, so we will do our Cup picks going ahead in Dega in a couple weeks. So enjoy the Xfinity, enjoy the truck, enjoy the ARCA race if you can. Yeah, happy Easter, everyone.
And after that, it's Dega, baby.
Dega.
Good old Talladega. So get ready to see about 15 cautions. So it'll be fun to watch, especially in the Xfinity series.
This ARCA race,
Yeah, Cletus is back for that one.
Yeah, we might have to throw in another ARCA hot take for next week.
Cletus wins the Talladega race.
I would love that.
Yeah.
The interview at the end would just be like the icing on the cake.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Cletus is I mean, he is the real life Ricky Bobby.
Oh, absolutely. He ought to get a broadcasting job. I'm telling you, he'd make these races entertaining when they get boring.
I'm sure Fox will be hiring.
Should be hiring.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. See you later. Peace out and happy Easter.